Hi, I'm Joe Polizzi, and this is the Content Inc. podcast. 5 minutes every Monday for content creators who desire to be content entrepreneurs.
My friend Scott Ellis passed away last week from complications of pancreatic cancer. When I was working with Brian Clark to launch what is now called Content Entrepreneur Expo, Scott Ellis was one of our first supporters. He was number 11 of 75 in purchasing our CEX Never-Ending Ticket and became a huge champion of what we were trying to do, help content creators become content entrepreneurs. On April 8th of this year, Scott sent me a note that he couldn't attend CEX this year. He said he was having some health issues and travel was out of the question for right now. I didn't think much of it at the time. I only told him to get well soon so I could see him at the next CEX and we'll drink to good health. And that was the last email I received from Scott. For our new book, The Content Entrepreneur, Scott wrote an amazing chapter on AI for content entrepreneurs. Who knew that this was going to be the last thing that Scott ever published? Whenever I saw Scott, he kept reminding me that Texas would be the best place to hold the next CEX, and he gave up convincing me after we sold to Lulu, but I remember how passionate he was about that idea. There is no point to this other than the fact that Scott was a good person who affected my life in a positive way. The Tilt and CEX are around in part because of Scott's physical and financial support. Thank you, Scott, for making an impact with a life cut way too short. Wendy only sending positive thoughts to you during this incredibly difficult time. As this podcast goes live, I'll be on stage opening up Content Entrepreneur Expo 2024 in Cleveland, Ohio. Now, while working on this, I stumbled onto a very important tweet from friend and CEX speaker Jay Klaus. Jay says, social media is borrowed distribution. Success on social media should benefit systems of distribution you own: email, podcasting, SMS, private communities. The goal of social media is to decrease your dependency on it, not increase it. This really reminded me of why we started CEX in the first place. We began this event because so many of my creator friends out there were struggling at building real, profitable businesses. But to understand this, I had to go back to how I started as a content entrepreneur. I remember reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki. Robert says to have an amazing, successful business, you need to create assets you control. And then I was working on an analysis of the New York Times as part of a consulting deal, and the TLDR on that. The Times creates hundreds of pieces of content a day, but they are not valued on that. They are valued on their customers and proprietary databases. The simple realization you come to is that you can't value a media company on the amount of content, their social media presence, or anything else. You value them on the audience and the buying power of that audience that you control and have opt-in permission to communicate with. So when we started our own content brand, Content Marketing Institute, back over 15 years ago, my goal was to build assets. So the 2000s content entrepreneur model sounds something like this: articles and blogs on my website, newsletters, research, print magazine maybe, in-person events and webinars, books and podcasts. Now then social media came around and we started to move our time and content from assets to networks owned by others: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter X, Facebook. And at first, this seemed to make sense. It was truly amazing, a free network where we could gain followers and build audience. And it was great until it wasn't. The algorithms have won. We thought we won the content lottery with social media. We changed our business models, but so did they. We lost organic reach with algorithms that prioritize user experience over our brand and connections. You have followers that aren't yours. You have content that your followers can't see. they can remove you from the platform at any time. We, collectively, stopped building assets and instead invested all our time on rented land. And now, we need to go back to the beginning. I believe that success for content entrepreneurs in 2024 and beyond will need to look more like it was in 2007. It's not impossible, but improbable to build a successful content entrepreneur business on rented land. Assets first. Social media on fewer channels and only when it makes sense. The new model sounds something like this: an email newsletter, podcasts, pick one or two social channels: TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, X, Facebook, Insta, communities and membership, SMS and tokenization, courses and webinars, in-person events, and direct sale of physical books and ebooks. The goal, your goal, is to build more assets that you can monetize over a long period of time. Let's do this. Good luck.